We're thrilled to have Scott Caesar with us today. Scott is the founder of the Men's Discipleship Network. Men's Discipleship Network back May 31st, 2015, had an incredible boot camp at the Christian Cultural Center in Brooklyn. We are planning now for our New York District Presbytery to start in October to begin to take them through the weapons curriculum, and Scott will explain that to us, what the weapons curriculum is, and then I'll be leading them through the weapons curriculum over the course of the next year or so, and looking forward to that. So glad to have Scott Caesar here, and Scott, you may want to just greet the folks, our credential holders across the district, and then explain, if you would, the weapons curriculum and what Men's Discipleship Network is all about.
Well, thank you, Superintendent Durst. It's an honor not only to have you as a ally and partner in this, but just finding men who care about what God cares about today and what's happening to not only the world's culture, but our church culture. And that these men and you care about what God cares about, the family unit and God's design, original design for its success. And Men's Discipleship Network was born out of a holy discontent, as we hear so many great men used of God term it. And it came from spending a lot of time with a father and mentor of mine, Dr. Ella Lewis Cole, as he trained me as a men's pastor and then turned me over to Bill McCartney, the founder of Promise Keepers. And what you were at was called a Men's Discipleship Boot Camp. And the system of MDM is when we pull together, I guess, a few thousand men. They run from 1,000 to 2,000 men as we try to put them 30 miles apart in different regions. And what Coach McCartney and Promise Keepers created was a catalytic system back in the 90s that an idea whose time has come. And it was wonderful and it worked fine, but the catalytic systems events time really has come and elapsed, whereas now it's a means to an end. And the end really is, the goal is seeing men set free from the lies, the cultural lies they believe and live, and then seeing them live free, bearing the image of our Lord Jesus Christ. As a man, I believe we lose his manhood in the deity many times. Our church should not have to pursue what it can attract. And attractive men create crowds, as the burning bush Moses had to see.
Scott, most of these 1,000 men who have been involved in the catalytic events, the boot camps, are down in Metro New York, the 5 boroughs on Long Island.
Correct.
Primarily. And
Yeah.
this is something that, because it has worked so well in Metro New York, I really believe it can benefit all of our churches across the rest of the state, and see this really spread from being centralized down there in the city area.
Well, what we're founding, Dr. Durst, is, there's surveys out there. When a teenager goes to church for the first time, 3% of the time the family follows. When a mom goes to church for the first time, 23% of the time the family follows. But when a man goes to church for the first time, surveys say 93% of the time the family follows. Dr. Ara Bernard has built a very large church here in the region, which many parachurch ministries and pastors around the country have not called our area user-friendly here when it comes to the gospel of Christ. But Dr. Bernard said in a recent interview that the main reason his church grew because of his willingness and his desire and implementation to teach men how to become leaders in the home, in the church, and in the workplace. We believe here that God is going to create a revival in our country through the men, restoring them to proper biblical manhood.
Yeah, Brother Bernard is going to be speaking at our district council, as you know, next May in the Buffalo area. His church is pretty good sized home missions church of about 37,000 members. So it's pretty good testimony of success. Pastors have a lot of choices when it comes to curriculum out there, Scott. What makes the weapons curriculum different from other men's curriculums out there? What's unique about this?
On a practical level, I can answer you this. The system that we give is far from and not push and play that you may see some of the Rick Warren's or Andy Stanley's systems out there. See, God has called us to build a leader with the pastor, his men's leader. So the videos are not push and play where a leader would just bring a video in, do some questions. See, the system is designed to raise up that leader and 2 leaders every 8-week season. Now, of course, the pastor's approval and involvement is on that, but the pastor has way too much to do in today's church culture, which is push men's ministry as one of maybe 10, 15 ministries instead of what Jesus did, is discipling men and having the men disciple the family and the children. Because today most men are handing off the responsibility of discipleship of their family to the local church, burdening the local church with something they were not meant to bear. You see, the system is designed to assist the pastor specifically in raising up men's leaders. One AG church with maybe 100 people attending on a Sunday said it changed the face of their church because the focus was just on raising up and teaching 2 men in the church that were pulling 6 men every Tuesday night. And within a very short period of time, I'm talking weeks, and then a month, they were pulling over 30 men because most men's ministers are embarrassed with the amount of men they pull, but it's really not their fault. The system that we design is really the culprit. So the target outcomes that we're looking at here is to raise up 2 leaders per season for the local pastor and to help him help them teach the men.
Scott, I know a couple of our presbyters already have taken their churches through the weapons curriculum, and many strong men leaders have been raised up in those churches. Steve Malazzo and Anthony Palella in particular. Talk to us a little bit about the outcomes and the stories in those churches that you're aware of.
Well, one thing we knew, if we didn't succeed for the pastor without giving him something more to do, something else on his task list, we knew this was not going to be successful. And I certainly did not want to just write curriculum and sell it to the regular resource system. We did not believe in that, although just today we got a parachurch calling us up that holds 50 events a year throughout the country, and they just want to sell our curriculums. And in a wonderful, nice way, we kind of declined because we want to help them create their own system. So in what we did with Pastor Malazzo and Pastor Palella and our blessed brother, the late Pastor Al Stein in the region here, what we're able to do is train their leaders through a process of online videos as well as in-person meetings and telephone calls. We have a staff of 8 to 10 coaches as well as customer service, always there to answer their questions and walk them through the process. So their success came on them not doing it because Pastor Anthony, Pastor Steve, and Pastor Al, just to mention a few of the AG churches, none of them taught the course, but either their associates did or their men's leaders, because raising up laymen to do this is what the system is designed to do. And that's where we find the great growth coming in, and that's what got them very excited about it.
What kind of follow-up materials and resources are there through Men's Discipleship Network, Scott, that would be available to pastors after, say, this weapons curriculum is run a couple of times with men and they continue to develop their walk and leadership?
To answer your question, we're coming out with a series in Biblical Manhood, a 5-book series that a pastor can hand a man. Because what we find is it's not sin management as much as people like to believe it is not a code of ethics, but a free man understanding first the order of God's love for him and being set free. And I know I'm preaching to the choir about grace in the AG church, but men's ministry has failed so often because men fail like failures, and we don't allow them, we don't let them understand or receive us as valley walkers instead of thinking that we're really valley superintendents. Sorry, I didn't mean to use the word superintendent, but
It's all right.
So everything coming out is every 6 months coming out with a new curriculum and a series of books. So they have kind of secluded me into the writing department here when I'm a men's pastor and I love ministering to men, but this is my deal here, so to speak, for the next 3 years that I'm supposed to do. So we're going to keep coming out with them, as well as building large events again. And as you can see, thousands of men show up to that. We've been doing that for 19 years. But Dr. Durst, the only reason we do catalytic events now, as you can see from the last one, is to lead into the second phase, which would be training the leaders, which leads into the third phase, them training and discipling their own men.
Some pastors will find it difficult to recruit some leaders, some men who might be interested in initiating a weapons curriculum or working with this. Do you have any recommendations for them, Scott, as to how they can handle that?
Well, yeah, that's easy, and that's great, because that is the first step. And the first step that a pastor can do is maybe ask a man or two if they would pray on it, not giving him anything defined, and maybe showing him a little literature that we provide. And the second thing is being part of one of the larger events. We have them all over, where a leader can come and bring one or two men with him, or the pastor, many times the pastor comes and brings his leader or another one with him, and they're there, and we give them an overview. And we are in the high 97-point-something% of churches who come to this orientation that immediately go back and engage their church with it. So it's really simple. If it's not simple, it wouldn't work.
Scott, I know you have events from time to time where individuals can come and be exposed to weapons curriculum, men's discipleship network. Have any scheduled coming up soon?
Yeah, we usually have them just about every 30 to 60 days. We have one coming up at Pastor Russell Hodges' church, where there'll be other AG churches plugging into that. And that is a day where we have two types of weapons curriculum overviews. This is something you can actually bring rank and file men to. The day acts as a filter to see if the pastor would like any of his men to teach. In other words, a pastor or a men's leader could bring anywhere from 3 to 15 men to this event. And out of that event, the leader filters who the Lord would like to step up and actually teach this. The whole event is designed just for that. And it's a lot of fun too. It's a Saturday event, goes from 8 to 4 o'clock.
Do you have a date on that?
It is September 19th on a Saturday, again, at Pastor Russell Hodges' church. And there's already other AG churches plugging into that.
Brother Edwin Lewis Cole, I think, is really the godfather, if you will, of men's ministries in this country.
Mm-hmm.
Incredible, great leader who I know has influenced your life and Dr. Bernard's, for that matter.
Well, you know what he told me, Dr. Durst? Last I spoke with him before he died, I never went up on a pulpit unless I talked to him, and I was amazed that someone like him would answer the phone to disciple me. He was an amazing man that just rose up and mentored thousands, yet he always made you feel like you were the only guy on earth that he loved, and kind of like what you do. Men like him and you are very easy to submit to, and I'm around a lot of great leaders, and I'm not saying that because we're talking. I tell other pastors that about you. But he said to me this. He said, Scotty, He said, if bin Laden, it was right after 9/11, he says, if bin Laden could accomplish what he's accomplished and discipled men with hate, what could we do with the gospel of Jesus Christ, discipling men with the doctrine of Jesus Christ?
Amen.
Yeah, and he was amazing. He goes, oh, by the way, Scott, he goes, tell him this. And he always did this to me to make me pause. He said, tell them the only scripture they believe is the one that they obey.
Yeah, amen. Yeah, it is all about obedience. It's not just what we know, it's how we live it out. Yeah, I know that's what you do. Thanks again, Scott. God bless you. God bless your staff, and so grateful that we can partner with you and see how God's going to touch our district through Men's Discipleship Network and what happens with our men. God bless you, brother.
My privilege and joy.
All right. Bye now.
Bye-bye.